This program features live coverage of an African safari and may include animal kills and carcasses. Viewer discretion is advised.
Good afternoon and welcome to a very calm, beautiful and warm sunset safari where a little grebe is making its way across a pond. This is your very own live safari. Good afternoon again. We are sitting here enjoying some water birding this afternoon. We've got a little grebe, there's a knob-billed duck and also some Egyptian geese over there. My name is James Hendry and this is my winning smile. Do you like it? I hope you do. On camera today we have got Gerrit, who is going to show you his thumb now quickly. There it is, vast human being he is. And we'll have a look at these birds for a little while before we head off to search for what we always search for, and that's leopards most of the time here. Please do talk to us during the course of the show. You can do that using the hashtag WildEarth on Twitter. Alternatively, if you're a youngster, you can send us an email to the email address kidsquestions@wildearth.tv. Otherwise, there's a mechanism for asking questions on our website, wildearth.tv. Carrier pigeons, the postal service, long dead. Neither of those two things are going to help you if you wish to ask us a question about the wildlife that we're seeing or ecology of Africa in general. Now, this little grebe that we're looking at is probably thinking about building a nest, although I must say they built a nest quite late last year, and in fact we watched it during the first lockdown, which was, what's that, April. Around April, May, we watched the little grebes, I think it was. And so I'm not sure if they shall bother in the springtime or if they'll wait till much later in the season. We're going to head off towards the east and see what we can find.
Good afternoon to all of our viewers and a warm welcome to And Beyond Ngala. We have just found a beautiful big herd of probably 50 or so elephants, and this male decided to walk over the road in front of us and start feeding on those young jackalberry trees that you can see in front of us there. He's still nice and young. My name is Tessa. I'm going to be your guide for the afternoon here at Ngala, and on the camera we have Owen. So we are absolutely loving this sighting of the elephants. So we're focusing on this one for now because he is nice and close to us, and you can see he's using his trunk to get the leaves off of that jackalberry tree. Having a very good time feeding. And lucky for the elephants today, you can see those beautiful storm clouds in the background. It's not that hot, so they don't need to watch out for the weather. And on our left here, you can actually see the rest of the herd is starting to come towards us. So we've got quite a few elephants over here. Looks like a few males as well as a breeding herd. So we've seen probably about 4 big males now, and off to the left and off to the right of them we've got females with calves. And they're all slowly moving towards the road. And I think they're looking for some really nice fresh food today. So we're going to spend a bit more time with them here and wait for them to come and cross over the road in front of us. I'm absolutely loving this elephant sighting.
Good afternoon and welcome everybody, and we cannot believe how our cup is flowing over with luck today. We've just come across this beautiful female cheetah straight after leaving the lodge. My name is Ross, and behind the camera today is Craig, and we're coming at you today live from and beyond Pinder Private Game Reserve. And as I was saying, we've been extremely fortunate because we were actually setting out this afternoon to look for a female leopard that we found this morning. She disappeared into quite a well-vegetated riverbed, which we couldn't follow her into, so we thought maybe we should come try our luck here this afternoon, and we just bumped into this female cheetah. So we are very happy, and so does this cheetah look quite content. She has found herself a beautiful termite mound to lie on, and she's done very well because it's a very good vantage point for her to be able to spot any potential predators from or threats to her that may approach her across these open areas. She'll be able to spot them from very far away and be able to make her way away from them. As I was saying earlier, we know at least that there's a leopard quite close to this area. So there are potentially dangerous animals that she could find here on Pinder. Lion, leopard, hyena, would all pose a huge threat to her because she, although is a predator herself, she's quite slight of frame and is not strong enough to defend herself against those more powerful animals. And now she's just resting now because it's been quite a warm afternoon. But even as she rests, look how her eyes are, she's taking those long blinks like you do when you really want to fall asleep, but you kind of don't want to. And yeah, she doesn't want to fall asleep just because cheetahs always are extra vigilant. Look how she's looking around there now, especially in the wind. And that might be why she's keeping her head up and swiveling it around, just constantly checking what's around her. We're going to spend some more time here with her, see if maybe she comes a bit closer, maybe she'll get up and move around as it gets cooler. But for now, we're going to send you off to another beautiful location.
Well, everyone, look who I have in front of me. 1, 2, 3, 4 fluffy heads that belong to the hyena cubs of the Djuma clan. Good afternoon. My name is Lauren. I do have Niels on camera, and I spent all morning looking for the hyenas this morning for 3.5 hours. Yes, and here they are at Philemon's Den number 3. So we're going to give you a little visual of them all, but unfortunately we have to leave. There's no adult around. I may cry. I won't do it on screen, do not worry. We have Ngwazi on the right, Ribbons Boy. In the middle, we have Corky's daughter. And the 2 on the left are Heart's cubs. So they're still here all along. And yes, that was some adventure Niels and I went on this morning. But it's delightful to see you guys. I miss you so much, more than you will ever know. But I really firmly sit tight. Hyenas are apex predators. They are primarily nocturnal. And I sit tight on my theory that they've just shifted to become nocturnal because we've gone into summer. The adults are very busy eating all sorts of, well, mostly impala lambs, sadly. And it's just been far too hot during the day. It's been unbelievably hot, 42 degrees Celsius. Can you believe it? So I think they've just shifted a little bit. If you look how sleepy they all are, especially Ngwazi on the right, you can hardly keep his eyes open. And I think that's because they generally are active all night long until that sun first starts to pop its head up, and then they sleep all day. Just as we sleep all night. It's the exact same. They probably came out right now for some fresh air. It's maybe a little bit too hot and smelly there, and they do need some vitamin D. So bye, guys. It's been an absolute pleasure to see you all. Hopefully, the adults will be here later.
Welcome back to And Beyond Ngala. We are still with this massive herd of elephants, and the sun has just come out of the clouds. So now you can see the sun shining off of their backs. And it's been quite a while since I've seen a herd this big, actually. They're just sticking to the tree line in front of us and moving from our left to our right. But there are so many calves. There's 2 young ones that are busy fighting. They're having a bit of a play fight. It's just incredible. If you listen, you can't even hear them moving. So this has always been one of my favorite things about elephants is there's total silence. You can't hear them unless maybe they're breaking a branch or maybe they might be upset about something and trumpeting, but it's very rare that you actually hear an elephant moving. Such gentle giants. This beautiful old cow that we're seeing here, you can see she's actually got very short tusks. But she is quite old. Her temples are sunken in. You can see on her head, she's looking very angular on her head. Her temples are sunken. And she's quite old. She's probably quite an experienced female. I love that rumbling noise. Absolutely incredible to have such a huge herd of elephants around us. We're going to sit here with them and see what happens.
You might be listening to the rumbling of the elephants, but we are listening to the splish-splashing sounds as they play about in Ndlovu Dam. Hello, Mr. Half Tusk, who's just charging on through. Right. Typical elephants trying to steal the show. My name is TAYLA McCurdy, and on camera with me today is BK, and we are here at Pridelands Conservancy, which are part of BUTLER Game Reserve and the Great Kruger National Park. But wait, this is spider web. They're all up in the car at the moment, so we've got to just make sure we get the webs away. But as you can see, the dam right outside the eco training camp is always full of life, especially on these warmer days where we have elephants submarining to the left, and we're going to have an elephant hopefully mud bathing. But look at those 2. I do that in the swimming pool. I don't know about all of you. Hey, when you drop down as low as you can with just your nose and your eyes sticking above the water. I know if there are any children watching today, they definitely will agree. Maybe you call it a crocodile, though. But elephants do it particularly well as well. As you can see, pushing and shoving one another around, although we all prefer to swim in much cleaner water, not like this dirty stuff. Can you hear those sounds now? You hear the elephant is stirring up all the mud. Yes, Gina, pool party is the best way to describe it. It's always a pool party here. Like those two over there. They're having a lot of fun. There were quite a few more elephants that have spent the day here at Ndlovu Dam, but they've obviously moved on and off to go and do some feeding now that they are sufficiently cooled. See, there's not much drinking that's going on at this pool party. It's more like they're practicing their synchronized swimming for some up-and-coming event, perhaps celebrating the fact that the borders are now open to all internationals. So come to South Africa, come and visit us. You can come and see how cool this is. And experience swimming elephants at Ndlovu Dam for yourself. How awesome is that though? Look at those chocolate milk-like bubbles that are being blown. I love how they're very sort of tactile elephants, aren't they? Especially when they use their trunks, they just touch everything. Whether it's for smells or, you know, feeling different textures. And of course, constantly touching one another. I mean, that's of course how they greet each other. Have you ever seen that when an elephant sticks its trunk in another elephant's mouth? It's quite funny. I'm glad we as humans don't do things like that. It's a bit weird, or it would be a bit weird for us. But this is lovely. BK, can we have a look at this elephant that's tossing mud in our direction? I'm glad that we're not a couple meters closer, because otherwise we're going to end up covered in mud. Now, mud, hey? Animals have been using this magic stuff that the earth has given us, hey, to cool themselves down, to protect them from the mud. And then, of course, we have humans that followed for centuries. And they, of course, also cover themselves in mud. This is called multitasking. Elephants always cease to amaze me. They do the most inappropriate things. Thank you. Well, I suppose it's not inappropriate for an elephant. This is just normal. Nice trickling sound. Sounded a bit like a fountain. He's having a good old scratch on this well-used leadwood tree. You can see it's completely covered in mud. All the Ellies come and scratch here. It's like one of their favorites. He's going to focus on his head first. No, he's just having a bit of a rest. You're going to go to sleep. He's pushing all his weight on that tree now. And then, a little side scratch. Come on, get behind those ears. Those ears must be itchy. Yes, here we go. Especially behind their ears. I'm sure there must be lots of little parasites. That skin is so thin. Are you going to do a little bum scratch for us? No, not even one. Right. Well, this naughty elephant is going straight back into camp to see if there's any lunch left over. I think we'll hang around with these elephants at the dam and see what else they get up to.
Jumbo, jumbo, another nice afternoon. Cold, it had just rained, and we have found our local coalition of Kijana and Olalashe. They seem to have been trying to get warm from the just past rain. Yes, Jumbo, a very good afternoon. I'm Isaac, and on camera is Bungay. Our mission this afternoon is to find the predators, but we've started with the lion. And we'll be looking for the lionesses. It is quite cool because a big storm just passed, but it was nice because now we can actually game drive in peace. The other one might come later on. These are our local males. We know them really well, and in case it's your first time, the guy to the left, he's called Olalashe. He's a very big and massive male, approximately 7-8 years old, and Kijana is about 5. And they've made an unusual collision, which is something that has taught us guides in the wild and other people that not always what is said is what happens. I mean, for many years we thought collisions come from the same pride, where pride males, are born either cousins or brothers. We know that they've always been the same age, but looking at these guys, you can tell for sure there's a very big age difference. Over here, survival is essential, and Olalashe could have not made it or survived without a mate, and so he pulled in Kijana, who came from the Owino pride. He's a son of another big male called Kipuli. And they've been roaming, they've been mating with their lionesses, who are about 5 of them. We know them really well. But for the last few days, we haven't seen them together. Yes, and looks like they're desperate, still looking for them. Well, I'm going to stick here for a little bit more, see if they're going to be mobile. Let's take you to another live location.
Now, I know you can't see anything there, but believe it or not, there's a leopard under the tree. Now, we were driving down the riverbed here, and I heard a francolin going, and I stopped and I listened, and it stopped doing it. I thought, I'm sure there's a leopard here, and I felt a great deal of confidence in my heart, because I know that Gerrit's eyes are spectacular, and I thought, if there's a leopard on the bank here, I may well not spot it, but he will. And as we drove past the bush in front of us, lo and behold, Gerrit spotted Tlalamba lying underneath a jackalberry bush, and there she is. And I think she only looked up because we were driving past, and it was only Gerrit's superb eyes that have netted us a sighting of this, well, rather flat cat, but we'll sit with her for a while and see what she does. She looks utterly exhausted. She kept nodding off like a child in the car, or in fact like an adult in the car. You know, when your eyes shut and your head lolls forward by mistake. We'll sit here for a little while, and then we'll see if we can't get a slightly better view of her. She's not normally immobile for very long. She normally gets up and moves about, but maybe she's been gambling about all day, and so perhaps she'll just sleep there. But when she picks her head up, it's a lovely frame, surrounded by the new leaves on the jackalberry tree there. All kinds of colours of pinks and oranges and obviously greens and yellows. It's going to be quiet for 10 seconds. Now you can hear a green-backed bleating warbler. You can hear some cicadas. But if you listen really carefully, you can hear the clicking of the ambrosia moths in the tambuti seeds around here. It's just magnificent.
Well, lions, they live quite some time, and almost 3/4 of their life is spent sleeping. They live up to 15 years in the wild, 20 captivity, and they are very territorial. Territory is an area where they mark during their lifetime, asserting their dominance within that area, and also to communicate with other pride members. They need to eat almost every 5 to 7 days. If they get a meal, a lion will never pass. It will eat it every day. They accumulate a lot of fat, they get really big, and when in lean times like right now, they haven't eaten for about 5 days. It is that fat that they accumulated during the good times that is keeping them alive. Over here, looks like Kijana is on duty because Olalasha seems to be fast asleep. But the young guy has been put on call. He's looking around to see if he can spot the lionesses. It is a very strategic point where they are because they can see quite far or hear any noises. So it is well-placed position. Lions have got amazing eyesight. They can see quite far. Their sense of hearing and smell also is very, very good. Over here in the Mara, territories are as big as, about 10 square kilometers, where they share them with only their pride members.
Good afternoon and welcome to the Masai Mara. We have some elephants who are busy grazing there. My name is Tim and behind camera we have Big James. These elephants look very grey, dark because it just rained. I can see some of them actually super playful, the youngsters there, which is very, very nice. The ones to the right of the screen look like young males there, young boys, and boys will always be adventurers. See how they always like fighting, playing. That is a social bond that they always create amongst them, because in future those three will end up being will go and become bachelor boys. It's very, very interesting to see how playful they are. It's always very special watching elephants out here in the wild, because Rosalind, thank you so much for your question. Elephants eat so much, so depending on the bulls, eat about 500 kilos, and females can eat up to about 400 kilos. So very, very interesting when they munch each day. You can see in the background there's lots of birds, cattle, egrets, and some of them have been following these elephants. Wow, what a playful evening for those young elephants there. I'm going to stick around here and watch these elephants. Very, very nice as they're walking out of this marsh as I take you over to another live location.
Welcome back to And Beyond Ngala. My heart has just melted. We've just discovered this tiny little elephant calf that's maybe maximum a week old. And Mom is doing such a good job at protecting the little one and hiding it. I'm glad you got to see that for a bit. But we're surrounded by a massive herd of elephants. You can see over behind me there. They're all having a bit of a mud wallow. And that's why she actually took it away. Because there's quite a few young males here that are having a lot of fun in the mud, and such a little one is very vulnerable. Oh, incredible. So with that break in the clouds and the sun coming through, it's all of a sudden gotten incredibly hot. So these elephants are really enjoying splashing themselves and coating their skin with that nice cool mud. And we've been so lucky with this herd this afternoon. I just love how the mud glistens off of them in the sun. You can see it there on its side. Those two seem to be having a bit of a dominant spat. Sizing each other up. So these are actually two males that have stayed behind at the mud wallow. The females with all of the calves have moved off into the thickets, probably into the shade for a bit. It's almost like this male is calculating his next move. Angie, it's absolutely incredible to be sitting here with these elephants. Absolutely incredible. I love a big herd of elephants like this because they kind of make you realize how special it is for you to be here. And they're so massive. They can weigh up to 6 tons for a big male. And we're sitting here and they don't mind us at all. They're just enjoying their mud wallow. He doesn't like the other male so close to him. He's getting a bit frustrated with him. So what I think is happening here is there's actually quite a few males that are following this herd, and we could actually smell one in must just now, which is when they're at their heightened sexual state, and it's a very spicy smell. And we could smell it just now, and I think that's because there might be a female coming in heat. So elephants would go into must usually around our summertime, so December, January, but we have had quite a few in must at the moment. That being said, though, they don't always go into must at a very particular time of the year. It depends on each elephant. The most common, though, seems to be in our summer, and that would be when they start really following the herds around and showing their dominance over other males, because they want to mate with the females. And we think that there is a female here that might be ready to mate because bulls following this herd. It's incredible to think that there are actually a lot more than 50. I would estimate at least 100 elephants that were in this herd, and we can't hear a single one. An absolutely stunning scenery for these elephants today. They're moving off into that stunning thicket to try and cool off for the rest of the day, and we've been so lucky to see them in this mud wallow today.
One of my favorite trees out here in the Lowveld, the sickle bush. Why? Look at those fantastic little lanterns. Pink and yellow. And believe it or not, the sickle bush is actually one of the major native encroachers out in the bushveld. Now, native obviously means it's native to South Africa. It's not a foreign plant. It's not being brought here. And it really, really quickly colonizes disturbed areas that have maybe been overgrazed by your grazers, your herbivores, or maybe cultivated by people. And basically, bush encroachment is a term that's used to sort of define the increase in mostly woody plants, actually. So woody plant densities, so that the entire equilibrium of the ecosystem shifts and is unfavorable to the ecosystem because they're quick to encroach, they're quick to take over. It means that they can, once an area has been, like I said, cultivated or overgrazed, it can appear and spread quite rapidly, meaning that there's no space for other plants in the area. And it can actually have negative impacts. It can have positive impacts, but it can also have negative impacts, many of them. It can sort of degrade the grass. And it's not alien invasion, that's a separate term. It's a term that we use called bush encroachment. And the sickle bush is known to be one of the major encroachers. And I think the flowers are probably the most unique and striking of the entire Lowveld. I really do. I just love the flowers here. It's only been recently that they've started to bloom. And sometimes this tree is referred to as a Chinese lantern tree. Of course, you can understand why, because of these miniature, beautiful lanterns. This will be our Christmas tree this year, I think. Isn't it just stunning? And sickle bush, although it's a native encroacher, some people purposely grow it to ward off evil spirits. So it's also got a charming reason.
Welcome back to our elephants, and it seems like they're still enjoying the grass while walking back to the escarpment. You see how slowly they're walking. Looks like they just came from a mud bath. By looking at their skin there, you can see that cow there with that tiny calf. You can see how she has mud on her back. That tells you that she was just from a mud wallow. Also, that youngster looks like he or she also went through a mud bath. So although elephants prefer diets of fresh grass, they will also sometimes browse on leaves and twigs, barks and roots from trees, sometimes, which also forms a big part of their diet. So these two are very, very much enjoying the grass. Sometimes you find that in harsh regions, because of the climatic condition, you find that there's food in small quantities. You find that diet is of poor quality, especially during the dry season. So elephant will need more bulk food to eat. That's what the reason why you find sometimes they eat lots of vegetation. You find that they'll eat leaves of trees, barks, and even roots to actually supplement a nutrient in their diet, especially when the grass cover is off. But here, these elephants have an advantage because there's plenty of grass. They can walk to the marsh. That youngster is actually playing with his trunk. At that age, they don't still have coordination. You can tell by how they keep on swinging their trunks. But by the time they're almost that age there, of about 3.5, almost 4, they have full coordination. As you can see, the one to the left there, that's about almost 2.5, 3 years. You can see how he's using his trunk very well. Well, thank you so much for your question. Elephants will cover a wide range depending on the environment factor. Especially during the droughts, they can cover even up to over 100 kilometers. But often they can cover about almost 30 to 40 kilometers in a day, depending on where they go to forage. But in times of drought, you find that they can cover a long distance. So as I watch these elephants just walking slowly towards the mountain and getting close to us. Let's take you over to another live location.
We've came across two, not one, but two ground hornbills. We're seeing them a lot around this area lately, which is fantastic. It's not a common occurrence for this area. And sadly, we have missed the best views of them. Let me see. I'm just going to reverse, and we should be able to get another view. How's that, Niels? Obviously not very good, Lauren. Okay, I think I can reverse one more time and get a view. There's one starting to appear here. They're hunting. They've managed to catch some. We watched them catch some insects. They use that great big beak of theirs and just grab an insect from the ground and then chuck it to the back of their throat. There's absolutely no table manners. And they can eat such a diverse range of prey, from, as I mentioned, insects to snakes, lizards, tortoises. They can smash open tortoise's shell, both the carapace and the plastron, with their beak. Okay, I'm not sure we're going to get another visual of them, I'm afraid. No, unfortunately not. But now we are going to head on into Chitwa.
Right, well, we've been driving around trying desperately to get a good view of Tlalamba. She's turned around twice, and this is about as good as it's going to get. I'm just going to be quiet again so that you can hear the clicking of the tambuti seeds. You'll also be able to hear the sound of the black cuckoo, the first one that Gerrit and I have heard this year. So just to explain, for those of you who don't know, there's a caterpillar that lives in the seed of the tambuti, and it eats it out, and then when it's ready to pupate, it flicks about inside the seed, and the seed bursts. The caterpillar falls to the ground, and I think it pupates underground almost straight away. And if you happen to pick up a seed that's got a caterpillar that's ready to come out, it jumps. Todd, where is Tlalamba? Tlalamba is, you mean where on Djuma? Tlalamba is in the Molwati riverbed, about 250 meters south of the junction with BUTLER Road. Does that help? I'm not sure how else to answer that question. This particular part of the world is on the western fringes of the Greater Kruger National Park in the Sabi Sands Game Reserve, which in turn is in the northeast corner of South Africa. And the entire area is bounded by the borders of the Great Limpopo Transfrontier Park. I hope that's answered your question for you.
Welcome back to our elephants, and look at how playful these three are. It's a nice place for mud, but and after the rains, Everyone is always happy. That youngster is trying to give his brother a hand. It seems like he's found a nice pillow. How wonderful, how lovely. So sometimes they'll pick a spot where they'll go and scratch off their bodies, like that nice spot where there's mud, at least on that termite mound. And this is a social behavior that they always watch or observe the older ones do. This one is not even interested. You can see how he's just following mom, not minding about what these other ones are doing. How cute is this? Because the other two are so big, that youngster is using his brother's body to actually scratch and get rid of whatever he wants to get rid of on his body. But how nice is this? This is one interesting evening. Yes, time to play. Yeah, come on, brother. Let me scratch against your body. Very, very nice. Is this how it's done? How lovely is this, watching elephants play, especially that cute little one. Are you off now? Look at his tusk, actually covered with mud. So the rain sometimes washes off the entire mud from the tusk, and you find that tomorrow morning they'll be white as snow. Very, very nice.
Well, that must be very interesting and lovely to see elephant mud bathing and actually sleeping. But of course, I have grey-crested cranes. It's another lovely family of them that are very busy eating seeds, and they have discovered that on the side of the road there is a specific type of grass that they love. And because I always find them here, and if I drive towards them, they will leave, but immediately they come back. I'll investigate what type of grass it is. I would say it's one of the star grasses, because it's very common and looks like that's what they're feeding on. Remember, the grey-crested crane will feed on insects, small reptiles, and plant matter, including seeds. And this is the maximum. Dodol, yes, I didn't get your comment, but thank you. They are actually very pretty, very beautiful. And these guys, these them. No, sorry, didn't get that. But yeah, it's a lovely scene here that we have of these guys. And this is the maximum number of chicks. When I say maximum, there are 3 chicks. No, 3 chicks here. And it's a maximum that they lay. That is one of the adults that is stretching his neck to have a better vantage point. And this is one of the commonest cranes that we find in East Africa. And they're very common in Uganda. That's why it is the national bird of Uganda. Yeah, the parent seems to be watching and taking great care of the young ones.
Chitwa Dam is as peaceful as it always is. The sounds of the birds and than the regular hippos. There's so much I envy about hippos. The fact that they spend all day in the water. The fact that they really don't care how ungraceful they are on land. And their defecation techniques. That helicopter is really something. But spending all day in the water not only helps keep them cool, it does. Keeps their skin hydrated and moisturized. It also saves a huge deal of energy. They are bulky animals. And a male can come in at anywhere between 2,000 to 3,000 kilograms. A female normally comes in at give or take 1,500 kilograms. So there's a big difference. And that is one bulky, heavy animal. And therefore, by staying in the water, most likely all the adults that we can see here are standing. Chitwa Dam's not that deep. They're most likely just bouncing gently on the bottom with their little legs, keeping themselves buoyed up. They're possibly using their lungs to assist in keeping themselves buoyed up, buoyancy control. But by saving all your energy during the day, they're not swimming, they're not paddling, they're not doggy styling, nothing. They're literally just buoyed up. And this allows them to save a great deal of energy, which means they don't have to eat as much. And therefore, usually most mammals, give or take, eat about 5% of their body weight to sustain their nutritional requirements. But for hippos, they only really need to consume about 1.5% of their body weight, which comes in, well, at about 50, anywhere between 15 to 40 kilograms. So they eat a lot less than other mammals. And therefore, it all comes about due to the fact that they save a great deal of energy during the day by being in the water. Now, of course, when they're mating, or maybe when a mother has just given birth, or there's been some fighting, then they will need to replenish that energy. They will probably need to consume a little bit more because they've used up a lot of energy. But generally speaking, they just live the chill life. Moonbeam? No, there's not. Hippos are said to be truly amphibious, the only ungulate that is truly amphibious. And the Latin name, I always refer to the Latin name because it always has meaning, is Hippopotamus amphibius. And amphibious means to bios, to life. So just like a frog has a sort of two-phase life cycle, the same as a hippo. It needs the water during the day for so many reasons. One, I just mentioned, saving energy. Two, they actually give birth in the water. They mate in the water. It helps with their skin. They've got very unique skin. It's very, very thin. Can crack easily in the sun. And of course, at nighttime, when the temperatures have cooled down, they are primarily nocturnal because they do all of their feeding on the surrounding vegetation at nighttime. So no, a hippo could not be completely terrestrial without approaching a water body. They need the water. It's very much part of their life cycle. They will move. You will find them on land. You'll find them feeding, and you'll also find them moving, but they can't go without water bodies. Dayachi, you're asking how long can a hippo stay submerged? Well, they're a lot better at holding their breath than humans are. They can't breathe underwater, so they're literally just holding their breath. And it's normally in an adult anywhere up to 5 to 6 minutes, which is incredible. That's another reason I'm envious of them, actually. I'd love to be able to free dive for that long. But a youngster could definitely not hold their breath that long. They've got to sort of learn, adapt, train their lungs. And normally a youngster at about 2 months old can only hold their breath for about 40 seconds. So as they get older, it becomes longer. But really, I mean, you'll see a hippo bob up and down all the time. But the maximum length of time is said to be anywhere between 5 to 6 minutes. and they can actually close their nostrils, which is fascinating, to stop water coming in. I'm sure we all know that feeling when we jump into the ocean and salt water goes up your nose. It's not pleasant. So they can actually close their nostrils to avoid that. And when I talk about buoyancy, you can create your own buoyancy. There's a lot of science behind it. It's a lot to learn. But hippos can actually make themselves negatively buoyant and help them sink under the water by breathing out, by exhaling. And I'll come back to buoyancy a little bit later on.
So she's doing some quite fastidious marking at the moment. She's got up, obviously. She's marked 2 bushes with urine, and now she's marking this guarri bush with her head, which leaves a scent. She might just also be having a scratch, but it's mostly marking. And I would have thought that she was south of her southern boundary and into her mother's territory, although I suppose you could say it was really kind of on the northern boundary of where Tandy's been. Well, north-western boundary of where Tandy's been. So maybe it's pretty much the border. But I'd be surprised if she went too much further south than this. I haven't seen her down this far south for a while. She's loving that tree. I'm sorry it's behind another tree. There's nothing we can do. Barbara, yep, absolutely. Cats change their hunting behavior during all different kinds of conditions, so they will tailor-make their approach depending on the conditions. In the rainy season, as you've termed it, she's now biting the tree. That is amazing. During the rainy season, as you put it, the vegetation is much thicker, and so you'll probably find that they probably do quite a lot more hunting during the day than they would in the winter, because there's no cover. But that said, in the winter, of course, it's cooler during the day, so they might move then too. In general, however, if it's raining or the weather is inclement, they'll hunt, or they'll use the wind and they'll use the adverse or sort of blustery conditions to their advantage when they hunt. And again, probably more likely to do it in the light than they would be otherwise. That tastes nice, my dear. Maybe she's heard every guide from the Cape to Ethiopia talking about how the guarri bush is used as a toothbrush. If you ever go on a safari, everyone, and your guide, there are a few things that your guide should by now not be saying anymore because they've been said so often. The one is that the impala are the McDonald's of the bush. And one of the others is that the guarri bush is used as a good toothbrush. We were always told that if we were caught saying either of those things, we'd be in big trouble, simply because they'd been said so much. She's marked another bush, this time a wilting Natal guarri, which is a different species from the guarri she was chewing. You also see that she's moving with what I would describe as gingerness. She's not moving with a kind of purposeful stride. She's looking carefully. Well, I suppose that's also, there's an element of hunting in that, except she is quite full. Tails up, as the birds are shouting at her. And so I think she'll probably just head off into the bush here and carry on her little marking patrol. And we will do our very best to stay with her.
Welcome to Tswalu Kalahari. Very beautiful hot day here in the Kalahari. Temperatures at about 35 degrees. We've got a gemsbok there in the background. My name is Obakeng, and behind the camera there we've got Dave. He's doing a very good job for us there, Dave. What you can see there, the gemsbok is actually lying under the camel thorn there. And it's actually known to be a heterothermal animal. Now, heterothermy, if one had to explain that, is the ability to influence body temperature by also taking in consideration the surrounding. Now, there's various ways that these guys can actually do that. Right now, what he would be using is something called the carotid retromandibles, which is a capillary network of veins that connects his nasals to his brain. And what that would help him to do is actually cool his brain lower than what his body temperature would be. And once his brain is cool enough, it thinks that it's cool enough to survive in the warmer condition. So with the shade there helping, obviously, with the breeze of the cooler air around. So that's how they would actually do that, and also taking advantage of the shade at the same time. So just another adaptation of the species of the semi-arid areas.
So we've changed dams. We're now at Leopard Dam and not Ndlovu Dam, where we have a grey heron perched upon a partially sunken log. Now, just a moment ago, it did actually have its wings spread wide open, which was quite a dramatic scene. BK was actually dazzled by the whole experience. He couldn't work out how it was standing with its wings like that. So hopefully this heron is going to open up its wings again for us. But at the moment, it is just running its very long and sharp beak very gently through all of its feathers. So you're probably thinking it's quite ridiculous that this bird is standing out here right in the sun, but sunbathing is very important for bird species in particular. I mean, we see lots of reptiles. Oh, we'll get back to that. Off you go, back to Juma.
We've got a hunt going on here. There's a little steenbok just behind one of these bushes, but no, I think she's given up already. I initially thought it was a baby impala. I think she did too. She came rushing around the corner here, but unfortunately for her, in the path of that steenbok were a whole lot of guinea fowl, and they are now in a state of enormous irritation. Sorry about that. I think I probably brought you over here for nothing. It was still nice to see her like that. Oof, but she looked like she was going to try and hunt. Angry guinea fowl. Let's carry on, because she does disappear very quickly. I think I saw some impala going through here, so she could hunt a little later on, or now if she has the opportunity. Okay, the bush is going to get very thick. But we'll do our best to stay with her. Stations, we've got Tlalamba mobile in a westerly direction north of Elephant Carcass towards, in between Elephant Carcass and Pangolin Track. Ooh. Goodness gracious me. Sorry about this, everyone. Watch your teeth. minefield of Strychnos madagascarensis. Let's tuck in behind her, be a little easier. Oh dear.
Well, we'll better keep an eye on that leopard in case something like that happens again. Back to some birding. So we were talking about feather maintenance. We talk about it quite a lot. And the importance of sunbathing. But unfortunately, this heron does not have its wings. Oh, are you going to regurgitate? No, just a yawn? Well, I thought maybe it was going to regurgitate something, but no, that sharp little pointy thing you saw was actually the bird's tongue. But anyway, so being out in the sun like this is actually really, really good for it. Sometimes what you might see is you'll see the birds reach right back towards the end of their tail feathers where they have a small gland, a preen gland, which produces something called preen oil. Now, that is essentially like a conditioner that we would use on our hair, but it's got slightly different factors to it. So they'll spread that oil on the tip of their beak and then run their beak, as this one is doing, through their feathers, which is awesome. Now, the preen oils vary slightly depending on bird species. Some will have more sort of waterproofing properties to them, for example, for geese and ducks and things like that. But for a heron, it doesn't really need to have waterproof or 100% waterproof properties. So it'll be able to, you know, you'll see little droplets running off of it, but it can completely get soaked, as we have seen when they're out in the rain. But being out in, of course, the hot weather means that preen oil, or the viscosity, then starts to increase and it is easily spread all over the feathers. So that's what it's just doing now. And every now and then you'll see this heron actually pull out the odd old feather that's of no use to it anymore, and it will float away very gracefully in the wind. But not hunting right now. Like I said, just focusing on some feather care. It's important. One must look after their luscious locks. I know I try to. There we go. There's the odd feather. Working on some of those primaries now. Well, it is just amazing the way that the little barbules can almost be re-zipped. So any messy feathers can be fixed up quite easily just by doing that. But also that preen oil will help get rid of any parasites and little mites and things like that, and so will standing in the sun. They don't seem to enjoy that too much. But I don't think it'll be too long before this heron cannot stand the heat for too much longer, and it will fly to the edge of the dam and then start wading through looking for something to eat, or maybe it'll become a duck heron. Maybe it will swim on out into the middle of Leopard Dam and try and catch a fish and a frog that way. I'd like to get that on camera. That would be really cool to see. I've seen it in Tswalu Dam, but we didn't get to have it live. But Susan's heard, one of my favorite elephants is also around, so maybe we'll give this heron a break and go and look for some elephants.
Herons as such are very patient birds whenever they're looking for food. You always think that they're not going to move at all. But here we have buffaloes who are very patiently resting. And I think because it was raining, they had picked a spot where to rest. In the afternoon it was very, very hot, and mostly buffaloes will take time to rest during the day, in the afternoon. And then late afternoon or in the evening, they begin waking up and start grazing again, going to drink water and then rest in the middle of the night. And then early morning, they do the same. It's not a very big herd, it's just a small herd. And I think that some of them are actually sound asleep, but I can see some activities going on. I can see oxpeckers. Wow, I can see a hyena walking in the background. Very, very nice. I like the way the oxpeckers are jumping from one buffalo to another. So the young ones have actually been placed in the middle, and you find that the very old, all the high-ranking ones are actually on the front, leaving the lower-ranking ones at the back. It's also interesting how they position themselves, and it's reckoned that when they're resting like this, the high-ranking females will actually position themselves in the direction that when they wake up, they'll start heading to. Very, very nice. That hyena is not even paying attention to these buffaloes because he knows that they're not his or her match. So most of them right now are ruminating. You can see them chewing their cuds. While the oxpeckers are busy grooming them, picking ticks from their body, which is always a nice thing to see. Oh, there's a warthog over there. Very nice. It's actually a nice spot because they can also look around at 360 degrees. Craig, thank you for your question. Buffaloes do not interbreed, but we have farms where people breed buffaloes. So only in the breeding farms where you find that they'll cross the breed, but they don't interbreed. But you find that the young bulls sometimes will be pushed off by the high-ranking bulls to make sure that they're the ones who sire the big, healthy genes. So this is a very, very nice place to see these buffaloes. We often don't see this relative size. Sometimes we get to see even bigger. Remember yesterday morning I saw a very small herd of about 25 or 30. Sometimes we can see herds of about 500, 600, or even 1,000. I'll leave these buffaloes to rest and go find something else as I take you over to another live location.
Reptile of the day. Very, very interested in us. At first I thought it was a striped skink. Very common out here, small. But they're quite black in colour. This one's very, very white on the head, and I'm now wondering if it's the cousin of the giant plated lizard, which is the black-lined plated lizard. It's much smaller, but I'm not actually sure. If any of you are able to identify it from this tiny headshot, please let us know. But it's definitely a lizard. And well, let's see, it's living in very, very small termite mound. It's really not the most wonderful termite mound to write home about. I wonder if it's a juvenile lizard as well. Of course, it's basking in the sun. The sun has really popped out. It's been slightly overcast all day and it's really, really started to pop out now. And most lizards out here, maybe with the smaller lizards, with the exception of the monitor lizards, feed on insects. So summertime is just a buffet all summer long. Ants, beetles, millipedes, termites. There's a little ant by your head. Oh. We can still see you. One of the features of being a reptile is having your body coated in scales. really thick scales. It's body armor, it's protection, but it's also to retain water and allows reptiles to survive and thrive out in extremely dry, arid areas. I think this one's got camera shy all of a sudden. I'd love to see it to know exactly what species we're looking at. Oh, hello. Can we see your entire body, please?
Rex, come in.
Yes, no?
Apologies. No, are you too camera shy? I'm actually astounded that it's letting us stay here for this long. This low-veld area needs more water to fully bloom into summer. We're in summer, yes, but the termites are not visible yet. The butterflies are really, there's a handful of butterflies out, but not in the numbers that normally come with summer. A lot of the bird migrants have not arrived, including the woodland's kingfisher. So summer really, as I like to put it, is not in full bloom yet. So we're going to let this guy enjoy his sunbathing and continue to see what else we can find.
So back to the Mara, we will come across another small group of elephants. Not that small, but actually a relative size, where you find that the matriarch is actually watching all this. You can see how they're slowly heading towards the left of the screen, and that's the direction of the escarpment. Very soft grass as they walk. They're just plucking. You can tell it's wet because of how easy it is just to pull. They prefer very fresh grass, which is very nice, and actually adds a very, very nice nutritious diet to their diet, which is very, very important for these elephants, especially the small ones who will always watch as the elders just grasp the grass. I can see two youngsters there fighting, which is very important for those two, because in future, when they become big adults, then they'll use that against other bulls in fights to defend or for dominance.
Finally got a little bit of sort of quiet in the sighting. She walked pretty much continuously until about 3 minutes ago, and then she lay down here in the bush, or underneath the bush, in the shade of the bush. There is now what sounds like the approach of the apocalypse, but is in fact just a game vehicle on its way in. I don't think that's what she's looking at. I think she's looking at something that may have been flushed by this vehicle, like a scrub hare, perhaps even a steenbok, or a duiker, or a baby impala, or a bushveld gerbil, which she could have with a little tea this time of the day. She's looking around. Don't lie there. It was kind of all right, I suppose. It's almost like she's wanting to be selfish and hide her face from us in the middle of a bush. So what I'd expect her to do today is wander like this, walk a bit, sleep a bit, walk a bit, sleep a bit. But I find it very interesting how different leopards behave in terms of their personalities. And I think that she's a lot more active than most. You know, when you quote a statistic like their sleep for 16 to 18 hours a day, it's really difficult to see her doing that. You know, as we sat with her for the first, I don't know, say 20 minutes or so, she was pretty much fast asleep, although she did turn over twice. But with her, you know, you're convinced that she's going to move. With her father, he can sleep for 3 hours. Her uncle, Hosanna, could easily have slept for 3 hours. Cousin Hosanna, uncle, cousin Hosanna, could easily have slept for 3 hours. We'd regularly sit with him during a drive for 3 hours where he'd lift his head once or twice and that would be it. I don't think I've ever had a drive like that with her. Debbie, I don't think Tlalamba is in estrus, because she's not calling. She's not doing any kind of calling, which she was earlier, which is why I think that the possibility that she's pregnant certainly exists. I don't know if it's a strong possibility, but I think it certainly exists. I think that she is not in estrus, though, now. And that's either because she's had a cycle when she was shouting and calling that time. Sort of 4 weeks ago she was doing it. She was doing it about 2 weeks ago as well. And I think she'll do it again if she isn't pregnant now. But normally what a leopard will do is call quite enthusiastically if they're in estrus. They will go extraterritorial sometimes. And her existence in this part of the reserve could maybe be explained by that if she wasn't so fastidiously marking along a boundary here or in a straight line. I don't think that she's trying to attract a male by being here. I could be wrong, but I would say no, she's not in estrus. She's either between cycles or she's pregnant. Well, Michael, I can tell you that her territory stretches from here to, say, the furthest north she's been seen is at Hartlepool Camp in Buffelshoek, which is, it's quite far from here. I mean, I would say that her territory is around about 800 to 1,000 hectares, which is pretty average for this part of the world. Could even get bigger. Her grandmother's territory, Karula's territory, was at least 1,000 to 1,200 hectares. So I would say hers is between 800 and 1,000 at the moment. And that's, you can multiply that by 2.4 if you want to operate in imperial. My small brain can manage 1,000 times 2.4. It's 2,400, so around about 2,400 acres. It's probably about average for this area. So I don't think she'll lie here like this for too long, and so I think it's definitely worth our while just to sit with her and wait and see.
Well, that is a great plan, James, and I hope you do come up with some luck that side. We have left the area where we were previously with that female cheetah. She wandered off out of our sight, and we couldn't follow her because the ground there was way too soggy to off-road. So we've come into this cool riverbed with tall, beautiful fever trees and fig trees and river thorns, and we found this troop of monkeys. This is one of the members that we spotted now, most obviously sitting on this very beautiful fallen over tree. And the way we spotted him was he was actually alarm calling furiously, and doing exactly what he's doing now, looking up at the sky. And we wondered what he'd possibly seen, and it was a crowned eagle flying overhead that he'd heard calling and soaring above this riverbed, and he was alarm calling at the other members of his troop to be aware that there was a potentially dangerous bird flying around. And now you can see, look, he's sort of relaxed. He's not alarm calling anymore, and he's actually just having a good pick of his nose there. But yeah, that sort of shows that he's calmed down a bit. He's relaxed. He's doing a bit of grooming and still a little bit vigilant. Normally there is one member of a troop that kind of remains vigilant while the rest of the troop feeds and goes about their business, and I think this may be that member. He's sitting on quite a prominent fallen over tree, which has got a good view for him around the area, and the rest of his troop is just foraging in the trees alongside him. There's not many that we can see at the moment, but we have seen some feeding on a fever tree. Actually, the sap from a fever tree. Oh, there's a beautiful sunbird. It's just flown away. Purple-banded sunbird just flew in and out very, very quickly. But the one monkey is actually feeding on sap from a fever tree, and fever trees do have pods which monkeys feed on, but other than that, there's no real other part of the tree that they do like to feed on, except for the sap, which is very high in sugar content for them and beautifully nutritious. Yeah, I agree with everyone. These monkeys are absolutely adorable, especially this one here. Look how he sits with his hands so neatly folded between his legs, just like almost like a small human child. And to see the behavior of primates like this just shows you how similar they are to ourselves. All the mannerisms that you can see here that this monkey is displaying, how he's scratching his shin like that, how he blinks and turns around his head. And now look, wow, as he turns around, he's displaying his very brightly colored genitals, and it's actually sounds strange to say, but he's got such exquisite genitals, and they're so brightly colored like that because this being a male monkey is obviously trying to attract females to him, and the brighter his bum and genitals are, would attract females that are most impressed by them. So yeah, we'll see if we can stick around with these monkeys. Maybe some more of them come out and expose themselves after foraging that we can have a look at. But now we are going to send you off to another live location.
And I can see that it's beginning to rain, so they're much enjoying the grass because it's much softer, and actually they like it after the rains because their bodies get wet and actually get rid of some of the old skin that has already been pasted with mud. And you find sometimes when it's raining, you find that they'll go on a mud wallow and then mud bathe and then walk into the rain, and then sometimes that rain takes off that mud and then can't continue again, and then go on to a stump where they'll rub and get rid of the sticks and some parasites, and actually helps to cool them. can see the ones at the back there, those should be males. Sometimes they're very much adventurous. Thank you for your question. The trees that elephants can knock over are actually very weak trees. You find that those will actually be too weak for the elephants, and you find that those big, very big trees are actually used as rubbing post, and sometimes the continuous using and pushing over by those trees, by the elephants on those trees, actually end up bringing them down. But you find that not always that they'll knock over every single tree, but they continue using or passing through that area, you find that those trees end up becoming weak. Those two youngsters are actually going at each other. Very, very nice because of the rain. I think I'm going to change position because of this rain, as I just try and shield off. As I change position for this rain, let me take you over to another live location.
You can see that there is high action over here. We are having a spectacular time observing the twitching of the white at the end of Tlalamba's tail. Who knows, perhaps she is practicing for the day that she has little cubs in just under 3 months' time, and they will follow that little white tail through the bushes as they navigate the precarious life of a leopard cub. That, of course, is all wishful thinking. We do not know if that is going to happen. And just in case you thought I was being serious, there's not a lot of action here at all. But she's in the open. She's not known for sleeping for an enormous amount of time. This might be the day she proves me wrong, and so I therefore think it is still worth being here with her. Gerrit was just saying that he thinks she's picked this area because it's got good marula trees, and she's eyeing out a pantry. And her next move will be to kill something and then drape it in one of the trees of this new pantry. She's breathing, in case you were wondering, just very slowly. An athlete in superb condition. I think you'll probably find that the aerobic fitness of the average human being that does, a little bit of exercise, say an hour a day, is probably substantially higher than that of something like a leopard, because they just don't do a great deal of exercise. But at the same time, when they do have to move, and move quickly, it's not like they are slow or inept at it. And I always find that amazing, because if a human being spent as much time doing as little as a leopard does, their muscles would turn to jelly and they would be extremely out of shape. I mean, most of a leopard's activity consists of strolling gently through the bush, snoozing, strolling, and once every 3 or 4 days doing a bit of a hunt, which normally doesn't consist of an enormous amount of running. It can consist of a big hit or potential stretching and pulling of muscles through the hitting of a prey item that's maybe a bit bigger. And yet they maintain the incredible strength and flexibility and speed that they have. And the same would not be for a human being. And so there's obviously something physiologically very different, and I don't know what that is, in just about all of these animals. We think of an impala as well. you think about something like let's consider a hunt with a cheetah chasing an impala or a steenbok. That steenbok or impala will run at top speed for a good, 400 to 800 meters or so. And if you imagine yourself, even as a relatively fit human being, there's no ways you'd be able to maintain that kind of top speed and energy expenditure for 800 meters or so. And I don't really understand the physiology behind it.
A very beautiful scene in the background there, some mountains, the Corona back, and a very iconic animal to this particular area, the common eland, biggest antelope that we do get, and you can see why it has been the Bushman's totem, as some would refer to it. Very majestic bulls there with a dewlap in front of the neck. Making it look even more impressive than what they actually are. Look at that. Sometimes when they do walk like that, I don't know if you can hear it, but sometimes when they do walk like that, you actually hear a bit of clicking. I'm going to just keep quiet a little bit and try see if we can hear that. A little bit too faint. We can't really hear it. But there's been a very big argument about what makes those clicks. And some would say it's a tendon actually on the knee. And as they walk, it vibrates. And that's what creates that click. It's still a mystery to be understood, what creates that. Also on the side there, we've got some gemsbok also just doing exactly like what the others were doing earlier under the shade there. I think we're going to continue and leave these animals to be. We'll send you off to another very beautiful location in Africa.
Across 6 white rhino here in the open plains of the south of Phinda. And we couldn't be more excited. It's so amazing to see such a large number of rhinos gathered together, all just peacefully grazing on this beautiful short new growth of grass that's sprung up out of the spring rains that we've been having. And it looks like there are, I think, 3 males and 3 females, so it's a mixed bag of rhinos here, and it's not uncommon to see, rhinos socializing in small groups, but 6 is quite a large number to see in one group. It's not very often, and they'll probably spend some time together, maybe a few hours in groups like this, and then they would go on their separate ways because they are inherently solitary animals. They live 90%, 95% of the time on their own, but every now and again they will sort of converge into small groups like this, and it's so amazing to see. And have a look at these rhinos. All of them are kind of they kind of tinge this dark brownish color, or at least dark grey with some brown on. And I think all of them have been, at some stage during the day, been rolling in mud or wallowing in these mud wallows that have been left by the rain and depressions all over this open area. And they would do that to cool themselves down. When the mud is still wet, it would be amazingly soothing for them to lie and roll in it. But then as it dries, it also forms this protective sort of layer around their skin to stop flies from bothering them, and stop those kind of irritating flies and other kind of insects buzzing around them. And thirdly, when they go and scrape that mud off against a tree or a branch, they'd scrape all the ticks and parasites that have stuck themselves to the rhinos off with that dried mud. So it's a really good method for them to keep away from parasites and stay cool at the same time. I think you can actually see on the one rhino in front of us how many flies there are. So Wes is asking, what are the different habitats that are found at Phinda? And it's a really good question, because in this one drive we've kind of been through 3 different habitats, and in fact there's 7 distinct different habitats on Phinda, or at least 7. There could actually be more, depending on how you define habitats, because there are some kind of transition zones between different habitats, but that's getting very technical. In the south of Phinda, we have these beautiful open grasslands and mountainous areas with those riverbeds that flow through them, which have these massive tall fever trees and fig trees, which are called riparian habitats. But then during, like, to the middle part of Phinda, we have lots of thicket and thornveld, which is kind of characteristic of Maputo land or northern Zululand. And then far to the north, we've got a very, very special habitat called sand forest and sand forest woodland, or sandveld woodland, which is unique, completely unique to the eastern coast of South Africa and Mozambique. It's a very, very endangered habitat. It's this beautiful 15, 20 meter closed canopy forest which grows out of ancient sand dunes that the sea had left far away from the current shoreline. Now it's left remnants of sand dunes which now the forest grows out of. So we're very lucky to have this beautiful diversity of habitats at Phinda, which of course gives life to diversity in plants and diversity in animals, and also diversity in birds, which we are fortunate enough to explore here. So C-Max also asked a very good question. Are white rhinos more social than black rhinos? And the answer is yes, they are. We see white rhinos in groups and bigger groups far more frequently than we see black rhinos in groups. Black rhinos are, almost never seen in groups during the day. And white rhinos we see in groups like this because they're most often active during the day. And they'll feed in groups like this. They'll also mud wallow in groups. They'll also sleep in groups sometimes, but that's only a very small % of the time. However, black rhino, when you see them in the day, they are almost never in groups. However, at night time is a different story. And we see at Phinda, only sort of when it's coming time for them to go find water to drink, black rhinos will gather in groups at waterholes and drink there and spend some time together even after they've finished drinking in small groups, and then they'll kind of disperse from there and feed and forage on their own. I have seen very, 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 very rarely on documentaries and also here on Phinda black rhinos in small groups. The most I've ever seen is 3 or 4, but that's generally when there's a mother and a calf and there's a male around looking to mate with the mom. So, yeah, it's much more common to see white rhinos like this. I don't know if you can see, but on the one rhino there's also an oxpecker, just trying to glean ticks and other sort of parasites off of the rhino that we were talking about earlier. It would also, I'm not sure if I can see it now, maybe it's on the other side of one of the rhinos, but it would also feed off blood and sores that the rhino has on its skin. And we always used to consider the tick or the oxpecker and rhino relationship that oxpeckers have with all big mammals actually as a mutually symbiotic relationship, which means that both of the species actually benefit from the relationship. The rhino gets his ticks removed and the oxpecker gets a meal. But in actual fact, it seems like oxpeckers feed much more on skin and open wounds of animals than we previously thought, and it actually might be more of a parasitic relationship than mutual relationship. And they keep those sores open for longer, which is interesting it just shows how much we learn about animals even now. We think we know so much about them, but they're teaching us things all the time. So we're going to stick with this little crash of rhinos and see if they get up to anything interesting. And we're going to send you over to another live location.
So welcome back to our elephants on the move now. Some of them on the move while some of them are still enjoying the soft grass there. Seems like a very nice spot here because they've not walked a very long distance. So this family always comes here and just stops, eat, browse while the youngsters are playful, and then carry on either out to the escarpment or back to the marsh or to the swamps. So each and every morning, this is where they always cross through. And as they head to the marsh, they sometimes gather together with different families, which are led by their matriarchs, and sometimes walk out late afternoon. You can hear rumble there. That's a vocal communication. Elephants have different communications. So the vocal communication is actually very important. Sometimes you find that if an elephant is not happy, or sometimes when they want to be on the move, you find that they will communicate in various ways. There are also visual, tactile, where sometimes the youngsters will be punished by the trunks. Those trunks sometimes come very helpful or handy when they actually disciplining the youngsters. Sinak, that's a very nice question. So the strength can be, I would say, over maybe 1,000 kilos, almost a ton in size of strength. Because I've seen elephant actually pulling a very big baobab tree. Unfortunately, that elephant got to die because of how that tree was big, but also using the tusks. So I can say up to maybe 800 kilos in power strength. So this family is heading to the west, so it's a westerner. You find that here we we always see about 6 families. Joshua, thank you for your question. Yes, elephants will worry about predators. So the big females with young calf are always worried of predators, especially hyenas and even lions. But you find that the elephant families with very old and mature and very big matriarchs sometimes get to live very well because those matriarchs actually can guard them from predators. But when these youngsters come across hyenas or even lions, so the entire family always works together and protect the youngsters because they can fall prey to predators. But in other places, I'm sure we've seen lions going over at elephants, but here we don't have lions or predators that have specialized in taking down elephants because we have a big number of prey. But yes, they'll always be worried about predators when they have youngsters. But old elephants or mature elephants are not worried about predators at all. You can see that tree is bent because it seems like a rubbing tree. So that has been continuously being rubbed by elephants as they walk over this place. So that's like a stump where after they come from a mud bath, they'll come and just rub against that tree. And that's the reason why you can see it's bent. As I watch this family slowly grazing, let me take you over to another live location.
What? Well, she's done a little bit of a move and come up onto Termite Mound to look off it, but unfortunately the gorgeousness of the soporific afternoon has now taken its toll on her and she's gone to sleep. So sleepy. She did look around for a bit and then she sat up and peered over the back of the termite mound. We thought maybe there was a little impala just emerging from the drainage line, but no. So she went back to sleep. While she was walking, I must confess that we both thought that she didn't look very full. And so that impala lamb didn't really touch sides. I mean, she doesn't look skinny, but she doesn't look like she's just had a massive meal either. I suppose she hasn't. She's definitely on the lookout for something. If something delectable comes across her path, she will make an attempt to devour it. She's now about 300 meters or so from Treehouse Dam, which is a long way south and quite a long way west for her at the moment. It didn't used to be, but it is now. And she could expect at that waterhole to meet either Sibui or Shidulu, and that's maybe that's the corner that's going to form between their territories. At the moment you can see she looks extremely worried by everything going on around her. Anxiety is palpable. I tell you what also amazes me is her ability to go from high action to fast asleep in the space of about 3 seconds. Such a beautiful colour. Oh, and then bath time. Just even open her eyes to yawn. Oh, there we go. Heard or smelt something. We're so lucky to spend time like this with these cats. We really are. They are just magnificent. Quite a quiet afternoon bird-wise, except that now, as we head towards 5 o'clock, the Cape turtle doves are starting to call. I suspect she'll probably head towards Treehouse Dam for a drink, but let's see.
We're surrounded by about 4 or 5 giraffes, lots of youngsters. It's a very, very small one, but sadly it walked away. It's very pale female. Oh, no, wait. I'm getting my binoculars out. Hold on. Nope, sorry, definitely not a female. In any way, shape, or form, I apologize. Young male. Very pale, very small, fluffy ossicles. You see, they're starting to bald in the middle, but around the perimeter of the ossicone, there's still lots of hair there. This will get less and less as the giraffe ages.
Well, I have a hippo here, but he seems to be eluding me, hiding between one and another bush, trying to get away from me and my noisy car. But I'm quite a distance away, so I'm not disturbing him in any way. But the presence of human is what he dislikes, and he's trying to make his way to the marsh where it's deep, and actually he can hide away from me. I'm at the marsh, and we do get these lone male hippos that are trying either to heal from battles and fights. You know, when they have these wounds, they cannot stay in deep water. They do come to heal here. And not only that, they come here to wait until they're big enough so that they can go back and try and establish their own pod of hippos. But this guy looks like he's been in a fight. He's got some wounds that are, healing. This is the hippopotamus. An animal that is so big, can weigh up to 2,000 kilos. Has got very short but very strong legs, catching top speeds of up to 30 kilometers an hour. And they have endurance, my friend. They can run very, very, very fast. We can do that, but we don't have endurance. Look at him. Looks like he's been out while it was raining. That's why he's very, very wet. But you can see there's a wound just below the neck there that's healing. So maybe he's been here healing for quite some time. It's an animal that I will never get close to because they're very dangerous and they have very short warning and also high-tempered. So they will come for you within a very short time. And you don't want to be hit by one of them. It's like a tank. Remember, they have very long canines for fighting and about 4 incisors in front that are very long. Also can stab using those so the canines can bite through most things, so makes them really, really dangerous. Not only that, they have a gap that exceeds over 150 degrees, so they can bite quite a variety of animals, including humans and even vehicles, so you don't want to get close to one. Yes, definitely, it's another behavior that I've learned today. No matter where they are, safety of water, because I'm the only one here and he's quite far away, but he still doesn't want anything to do with me. And definitely he's making his way towards the marsh. Hippos are grazers. They feed entirely on grass, but for sure they do grab some insects every now and then, and also weeds or creepers. So definitely it's part of their diet, but it's not counted as their main diet. And can consume up to 40 kilograms of grass a day. So they eat quite a lot, and it's quite early for him to be out. Well, I'm gonna leave you with that beautiful scene of the Olololo escarpment as I prepare to move on.
Wow, how lucky to see a hippo out in the open with Isaac. Very, very, very cool. We're still here with these rhinos, and they've moved slightly since the last time that we were with you. And they've moved into this area where you can see there's very, very short cropped grass, but it's bright green. And it seems like they're really favoring this grass. There are certain types of grass that rhinos prefer and ones that they sort of shy away from. But look at these two rhinos on the far left. Look what's happening here. The one is actually trying to... Oh, look what they're doing. So the rhino on the far left has just urinated there, exactly where those other two are sniffing. And I think you might find they might test his urine by lifting up their lips. Oh yeah, they're doing it right now. So how they test urine is by licking it and putting it onto the top of their palate to test it on the top of their palate against a special organ that rhinos have. Actually, quite a few mammals have this organ. It's called the Jacobson's organ, and then they lift their lips to expose the urine to that organ even more. And in that, they can test whether that rhino has certain pheromones or not, and hormones, and a male can tell if a female is an estrus or not. A female can tell if a male is ready to mate with or not. And so it's very, very important communication that they are all engaging in right now. They're getting to know each other a lot better. Rhinos don't, well, they actually do vocalize. At times they can squeal, they can grunt, they can snort, but they do most of their most communication, or their most important communication, by leaving scent marks like this. And it's very effective because they can communicate with each other over long distances, so they don't have to actually make contact to communicate. They can leave all the information they need to pass on in a single drop of urine. So, wow, this is very, very interesting behavior to see. As soon as that one rhino urinated, they were all in there like flies to a carcass almost, to test it. And now that they've sort of gathered the information they needed, I think that rhino that urinated was a bull. So there's, I think, 2 or 3 other bulls in this group. They wouldn't have needed to gain much information from that other bull's urine. They're more interested in females, whether a female is in estrus or not. And rhino bulls are territorial. They have their own sort of designated territories, especially older, more dominant bulls, and they'll keep to their own territories. Younger bulls will be a bit more transient, like I think a few of these bulls here. They haven't really got a finite territory yet. They just kind of go all over the show. But they are very tolerant of each other, as long as they don't step on each other's toes. And if the smaller bulls show subservience to the older bull, then they'll get along fine. Very different to black rhinos. Black rhino bulls don't tolerate each other in this kind of fashion at all. So Krishna has asked, how long do rhinos sleep for? And I'm actually not sure. I'm going to have to get back to you on that one, Krishna, with a proper answer. But I can tell you that they sleep sometimes for a very, very long time. On a hot day, especially, they can sleep under a tree, or in a shady spot, or in a mud wallow for at least 9 or 10 hours. I've seen a rhino in the morning at 8 o'clock in a mud wallow fast asleep, and I've seen it there at 5 o'clock in the afternoon still fast asleep. So they do have to drink pretty often. Once a day they'll find some water to drink, and so they won't sleep sort of more than 12 or 13 hours, I wouldn't imagine, because they do need to eat quite a lot and they do need to drink every day. So I'd say probably, if I had to hazard a guess, probably about 10 hours would be a maximum. They're probably capable of sleeping longer, but probably wouldn't happen in reality more than that, only when it's a hot, hot day. You can actually see on the sides of these rhinos the scrape marks where they've scraped the mud off. So stuck in bed, you've asked what is the second bump behind the rhino's horn? And these rhinos are all dehorned, as you have all seen, except for the one which has a stubby horn. But they've actually got, rhinos have two horns, white rhinos and black rhinos. But they'll have the big long horn on the front, but then also a second horn behind it. And that horn can also grow quite long. Not as long as the front one, but it can go quite long. And we dehorn our rhinos here at Pinda to keep them safe from poaching, which is a huge problem for rhinos all over the world, in Asia and Africa, but especially Southern Africa. Rhino poaching has picked up exponentially since 2008, and to curb that exponential increase in poaching, we've taken this decision at Pinda to dehorn our rhinos. We took this decision about 4 years ago, just because the reason that the rhinos are poached is because the horn is very valuable overseas in many places for a lot of different reasons. And if we take the horns off of our rhinos, it takes away the incentive for poachers to poach them. And we found that very successful here in combination with quite strict anti-poaching and anti-poaching patrols and tight security at all of our gates and on our fence lines. But along with the dehorning, we haven't seen any poaching here on Pinda since 4 years ago. So it's been very, very successful, and it's completely worthwhile, in our opinion, because also the research has shown that there's been very few behavioral changes in our rhino. They don't actually use their horn for a lot, except for males comparing size. But we found that males can compare size of their bodies and their heads and that kind of thing without having a horn, and it hasn't affected them at all, which was the main worry that we first had. So that's the reason that you can see that small bump behind the horn. It's just another smaller horn that's been taken off, which is taken, it's a little bit smaller, so it doesn't look as prominent as the new bump in the front. But these rhinos' horns are made of keratin, so exactly the same substance as your fingernails are made of, and they grow back very quickly. Within 2 or 3 years, their horn will grow back, and they'll have a full horn once again. So we'll have to keep trimming the rhinos' horns if we want to keep them dehorned. And for now, I think that's what we are still busy doing, just while the poaching problem is a huge problem. But when the poaching problem goes away, we'll be able to allow our rhinos to grow their beautiful horn again. So let's hold thumbs that this poaching and anti-poaching movement against poachers starts to become successful. We're going to send you off now to another live location. We're going to stay here with these rhinos and spend a bit more time with them here.
Welcome to Tswalu again, a big buffalo bull on its own, and usually when they are like this, they are renowned or often called Daga boy. And the term Daga is actually colloquial or very common or a local word for a mixture of cement and water, or sand and water. And it usually comes from this animal's behavior of rolling in mud in the attempt to just help themselves cool, and also help aid with the hair loss with age. But look at how big this guy is. Gotta keep following him around, and look, he's just dragging his feet as he walks along. I mean, he's an old big boy. Let's just keep in line with him. Look at that. Look at the size of his boss, where those two horns meet. It's known as a boss. Impressive specimen. Look at that. And it's usually at this point where these guys, instead of fleeing from trouble, they would stand their ground and actually fight. And this is why they're also part of the Big Five. Actually, speaking of that, the term Big Five also is a very interesting concept as to how it came about, with being the most dangerous or the most fearsome to actually approach on foot. It started off as a hunting term. Slowly heading towards water in the direction that he's heading. That valley, where that valley meets, there's a watering hole there, and that's the direction he's taking.
Welcome back to And Beyond Ngala, everybody. We've been driving along the river this afternoon looking for any tracks of leopards, and we found another beautiful herd of elephants with this calf that is just starting to master how to use its trunk to eat this tall green grass. And it's going incredibly fast. So we've been laughing at it because everywhere it goes, it's just eating more and more, and you can see it's kicking the grass up, loosening the roots. And it just hasn't even stopped to do anything else. So this young calf isn't even 2 years old yet. And it's been following the rest of the herd around, but it seems to be the straggler at the end of the herd today. So if you listen really closely, you can actually hear the leaves and the grass being pulled by the elephant's trunks. So this particular section of the river where we are now on the bank is one of my favorite sections. Absolutely stunning with the open grass and then the tall trees in the background along the bank. But this little one has been entertaining us this afternoon. Absolutely stunning.
She's in a bush here, and if you listen, there's a troop of dwarf mongoose in that bush, I hope under cover, underneath her, but they are very upset. She's trying to catch one of them. Well, we'll wait to see if she comes out. Remember, this is why you often don't see leopards eating. They catch small stuff like this all the time. And same with lions and, the number of impala that they eat without being seen. These guys are snacking. Oh, she definitely got close there. This is quite amusing. None of them are going to break for cover. I think half of them are in the sort of pushed down broken tree behind this bush. I don't know if you heard the change in tone as she turned around. Clearly one of them went deeper into whatever hiding place it's found. When I initially heard the squeak, I thought she'd caught something. The wily mongoose have so far managed to foil her. I mean, if you've ever owned a house cat, this is just like watching a house cat. I really think that this is of limited nutritional and gastronomical value, because my understanding is that a dwarf mongoose is able to produce a truly horrendous odor when it is caught. It has a powerful anal gland. Oh, she's got one. Oh, sorry, little thing. Did she swallow it? We'll just leave it on the ground. She spat it out. She spat it out. Nathan, a leopard's main food source at this time of the year is a baby impala. Other times of the year, steenbok, duiker, sometimes adult impala, but small to medium-sized antelopes. But they eat a lot of this sort of thing as well. They're the ultimate generalists. She just spit it out and leave it there. Isn't there? Oh, there, look, it's on the ground there. Right next to her, just next to her mouth there, Ger. Sorry about the antenna, everyone. It's a little baby. Oh, dear. Oh, it's tiny. Shame. Oh, dear. It's tiny even for a dwarf mongoose. Yes, you should be ashamed of yourself. That's not something to eat. Oh, it's crawling away. She's now chuffing at it. She is chuffing at the dwarf mongoose. I'm going to move quickly. Yeah, let me just move quickly. Sorry, everyone. It's quite a tricky area we're in. Oh, dear. Yes, it's going to have to be good as far as I can go. Now that chuffing noise is a playful noise that they make. It's a contact call that they make. Often she used to do it with her father to kind of calm him down, settle him. And I can't believe that she's trying to settle down the dwarf mongoose and indicate that she wishes to play with them. They do it to reduce conflict normally. Perhaps giving a little credence to my theory that their hunting instinct is more closely associated with playing and enjoyment than it is with hunger. Got another one there. I can't see through this dense, impenetrable Strychnos madagascarensis forest. Unbelievable stuff here.
Welcome back to And Beyond Ngala, everybody. So I was driving along the riverbed towards one of my favorite pans called Rucastle's Pan, and we spotted this beautiful monitor lizard that is on that log that's in the middle of the water. So it's right on the left-hand side there. And just have a look at how long that tail is. Absolutely incredible. It almost looks like a snake. In fact, we mistook it for a snake in the beginning, just from the long tail. So I think it's just trying to regulate its body temperature, relaxing a little bit on this log. But it's also an amazing place for it to find food, because there might be frogs and birds that come down towards this little water hole. But you can see it's got the most stunning markings down its side. They almost look spotted like that leopard. And it's actually darker on its back than on its stomach as well. So these are actually quite formidable predators. They are very good at hunting. They're very agile with their tails as well for movement through water, but also if they need to defend themselves, they can use that long tail to whip at any predators. The biggest threat here, especially in an open area like this, for this monitor lizard would be something like a martial eagle, because it is exposed on that tree, although it is very well camouflaged. It stays nice and still like it is now. It's got less chance of being seen. Just an absolutely stunning little waterhole to sit at. So we don't actually often see monitor lizards in an open sighting like this where you can actually see it clearly. Normally they hide incredibly well And you can see from here that camouflage is absolutely unreal. Especially now that it's starting to come towards sunset. The light is quite tricky, especially with that type of camouflage on that log. But I've seen monitor lizards just like this one, especially around water holes like this. If you get a ground nesting bird, maybe like a blacksmith lapwing, going and eating those eggs, they're very high in protein. But also eating young chicks, frogs, all sorts of things. At the moment though, he just looks so nice and relaxed. Trying to soak up the last bit of warmth for the day before it cools down tonight, because they are animals that can't regulate their own body temperature, being a reptile. Listen to these stunning birds around us. Absolutely, it is very calmly monitoring the situation. Very clever play on words, I love it. Oh my goodness. I think if I was a monitor lizard, I would be doing exactly the same thing, relaxing on a tree. Got a lovely view, animals come to you. So this is actually also a particularly good spot for African rock pythons. We've got one that tends to come here quite often. So we always look for that here, and I actually got a bit of a fright. I thought it might have been that, but I'm actually really happy that it's a monitor lizard, because we don't often get to see such a relaxed monitor lizard out here. But I just love this time of day with the golden light filtering through. The birds all starting to call. It's absolutely, and listen to it. You can hear doves and an eagle, babblers. Such a wonderful spot to take in the last bit of golden light for the afternoon.
It looks like our buffalo has proven us right. They all starting to come out and meeting here by the watering hole. Look at that. So obviously the day is just about to go into the end, and this is probably where they'll drink before they forage into the night. A little bit of a meet and greet there, smelling each other. Beautiful scenery around. There's also some giraffe towards the right there. So it looks like it's the time where everybody's coming to drink, slowly approaching the watering hole. Interesting enough, with these buffaloes, it's a group of males that are congregating here. No females amongst them. A bit of a snooze off there. Young boys that were sizing each other up. Look at that. Nathan, how dangerous is a buffalo bull? Now, buffaloes are known to be part of the Big Five. And the Big Five are the most dangerous to approach on foot. And one of the reasons that make these guys so dangerous is you cannot really read their body language or their facial expressions like most animals that would give you maybe a snarl with your lions or a growl or so on. They've got this stone cold face and never almost giving a warning before they do anything, and that's what makes them so dangerous. I mean, you're looking at almost a ton that could charge at about a speed of about 40 kilometers. So it's like a small car hitting you, actually. So the impact would be much bigger than that of an ordinary cattle or an ordinary cow. So it is quite an impact. I mean, look at the size of the neck with these guys. Very, very big neck, big boss. And when they do come charging, they'll come with the head tilted down so that the boss is actually the first point of impact. And it's actually constructed in such a way also that it helps the head not to have a concussion when they do actually headbutt and fight amongst themselves. The very same reason when they would knock something out. You will see them when they toss things like your lions and so on up. They would use that part of the head or of the boss. Look at that. If Dave zooms in, I mean, it just fuses. It's almost like a helmet over the head there. Look at that. A couple of big boys here. Some just over the 45-inch mark. A bit of sparring there. Nothing too serious. This kind of sparring would also help with establishing dominancy and a hierarchy amongst themselves, so that one day when it becomes serious, they know how to use those sets of horns. Look at how they almost lock. And they break it off. No, at it again. Can actually hear the sound of the horns knocking. Scenic. At Tswalu itself, I have not seen buffaloes fight, but in my career, yes, I have seen buffalo bulls fight. It's not a pretty fight. Actually, one of the worst fights I've seen was with a pathfinder that was being busy taken down by two male lions. And as these male lions were taking it down, one of the shadowing buffaloes, or one of the flanks of the buffaloes that was next in line to take over, was starting to knock this buffalo down, as just to show sign that it's taking over and it's more dominant than the dominant bull that was being taken down at that time. Quite a sad little incident there, but when they do fight, it can be really, really bad. So here at Tswalu, not yet. I'm still hoping to see something of that demeanor unfold, but who knows? Maybe it happens, maybe it doesn't. Some Hadidas calling in the distance there. I think we'll stick around and see what these buffaloes are going to get up to. It looks like there's going to be a few more sparrings amongst them as they slowly still approaching the water. So we'll stick around here and see what happens. Also, the giraffes in the background, they still on the tree line there. So let's see what happens. In the meantime that we are still waiting and hoping to see more action with these guys, we're going to send you off to another beautiful location in Africa.
All right, everyone, we have journeyed further into the grasslands of Phinda, and we've come across this majestic elephant bull striding purposely through the short bushes and grassland and feeding as he goes. And it's just so amazing to see how vast this area is when you get an idea of the size of an elephant bull standing in the middle of the plains, and just the beautiful rolling hills in the background and those mountains which stretch far into the distance, the Lubombo Mountains behind him. It really is impressive to see. I'm not sure if you can see, but also just in the foreground there is a pair of rhinos too, different white rhinos than the ones that we saw earlier. But it looks like a mother and a sort of medium-aged calf, maybe 2 or 3 year old calf, also grazing in this grassland. But have a look at this elephant. It's very interesting to see. If we take a closer look at him, he's got no tusks. He is an adult male. He's a big bull. And I think he is quite a lot older than most of the bulls around here. I'd say 35, between 35 and 45. But he's got no tusks. I wonder if he maybe snapped them off when if he fell once, or maybe against a tree, which he was trying to scrape bark off. It could have been a number of reasons which broke those tusks off, but it does look quite strange. We're going to stick with him and see what else we can find here. That was weird. Add pod.
Welcome back to And Beyond Ngala. We seem to be having a very lucky afternoon with some of the larger mammals. We've just found this herd of buffalo, and this is actually the back end of the herd at the moment. And it's the last few stragglers kind of turning to look at us and make sure of what we're doing. And where we're actually going to go is behind where that buffalo is standing. You can see a spike thorn thicket. On the other side of that spike thorn thicket, there's a nice clearing where the other buffalo are in the herd. But we've seen quite a few calves coming through as well, and 1 or 2 really big bulls. And in fact, a buffalo, there's a massive bull at the back there. In fact, this is my dad's favorite animal, and it always has been. So every time I see a buffalo, I always think of our Kruger Park holidays together. It always brings back a special memory. You can see the last few stragglers coming through. There's some youngsters, actually. Those are about 2 years old. They've got some straight horns. Beautiful cow. Oh, she's got quite a scar on her face, that one. So what we're going to do is we're actually going to start moving around to where these buffalo are in the clearing. It's a beautiful open area here. There's another bull coming through, and they've actually just been feeding through this grassy section.
Just trying to spot the duiker here, everybody, just to the right there. Gerrit, he's walking straight towards us. And Kalamba is right here, stalking this duiker. We can't see her, we can see the duiker. I think he's walking straight into her. He looks like he thinks there's something up. We were going to leave her, we did leave her. And then we came past here, and she was moving up towards him. Now let's just wait here, not move, because if she does strike, we'll hear the duiker call. It'll go, wah! It'll be a very unpleasant sound. But she's right in there. I think that duiker's walking straight into her. Let me just back up slightly. I can't see either of them now. He was walking straight into her. I'm just going to stop here and look with my binoculars and see if I can't see either of them. We don't want to go blundering in there because we'll ruin it for both of them. Okay, I can see her. She's... Gerrit, you see the the fallen branch, the fallen stump. Yeah, just zoom in there and go right. She's in picture now. Right a bit. Right. There. That's it. I only saw that because I had the binoculars. A duiker was on top of her, but he's wandered off oblivious, and she's obviously let him go. I'm not sure that's correct English. She's obviously let him go, or left him to go. Huh. I thought he was a goner. I think luck is on his side. Phew, that was very exciting. Maybe we will just wait with her a little bit longer, see what she does.
It still looks like there's a bit of a congregation there. They're still taking their time before they get to the water. I think it's just a hierarchical thing amongst them there, where they're just trying to sort out who's who with the sparring. It still continues, the sparring. Every now and then you see different two bulls. Look at that Fleming grimace also. The boys just testing each other's urine out. So what they do by doing that, they actually curl the lip and take the pheromones of the urine and put it directly onto their veronasal organ, and by that they can analyze the status of the others that are around. Should there have been females around also, they would be able to pick up on those pheromones and be able to tell if the females are actually getting close to heat. So that's how they would be able to decode what is happening with the females or with their counterparts. Yep. So every now and then you see the bigger one will challenge the smaller one, or just showing him I'm bigger than you, and so on. It will keep on going like that. Ooh. Getting a little bit serious there at the background. It could be evenly matched. Interesting interactions there. Sheldon, how do you measure the size of the buffalo horn? Now, one has to start from the outer ends. So from one point of the outer ends to the next would be how you measure it. And it, in most cases, it's referred to in inches rather than centimeters. So anything from 45 inches going up would be known as very big. There are records of, I speak under correction, just over 50. I have not seen a specimen as big as that. Probably the biggest I would have seen would have been just touching 50, and nothing bigger than that. So that would be almost a meter if I had to convert. So it's quite a big spread between the points there, or between the edges. And then you also refer to how big the points leave a space in between. So it would vary from person to person, but the most common is from one edge to the other edge of the horns.
It's like they're not quite sure what they want to do. Oh.
Sorry about that. We decided to leave her because we'd been driving behind her through thick bush the whole afternoon, and really her chances of catching anything if she wants to are very negligible with us bashing behind her. So we had good 2.5 hours with her, and we've left her. What you didn't see was that she did call once. And I wonder if all her fastidious marking, a lot of it you didn't see as well, and that call indicates that maybe she is going into another estrus cycle, especially that she seems to be slightly far south than she is normally. She's not that far south, but a little bit further south than I would have expected. So maybe she's going back into estrus. She only called her once, and it was just after she'd killed those mongoose, and that was the end of that. So I don't know if she'll do it again, or if maybe she is coming back into estrus. But we'd expect that she would either be about to come into estrus or pregnant, because really she was screaming her head off for weeks, it seemed. And that was an almost certain indication of estrus, and then she stopped. So either it was the cessation of the estrus because of pregnancy or because of the end of the cycle. We're now going down towards Treehouse Waterhole, see what we can find over there. Something must have decided that today would be a good day to have a sort of sunset drink, and so we'll go and find out what that is.
We have not had a very lucky afternoon, I'm afraid, and apparently the Talamati pride of lions are on Chitwa. So we've raced all the way down here and they've moved, and nobody knows quite where they've moved to, but the point is the Talamati pride being on Chitwa is very unusual. It's actually very rare to see the Talamatis anywhere else other than Buffelshoek, the northern slice of Djuma and the northern slice of Torchwood. So things are shifting. Now it's summer, food is plentiful, herbivores are plentiful, so I wouldn't think that the reason they would need to shift so drastically is food. But anyway, no one can locate them, so we've decided to stop and admire some waterbuck. Not lions, but waterbuck. Now, Niels and I have framed up I don't know how many impala lambs for you. But we just can't get them on camera. I'll get one eventually. But slowly but surely, day by day, we're starting to see more and more lambs. We've got an impala herd over here, Niels. I wonder if we just have a look. Maybe there's going to be some lambs with the herd. Normally, mom and lamb spend a little bit time apart, but safety comes first, and it's paramount that mother eventually brings the lamb to the herd. Safety in numbers. I don't see any little ones, so... A lot of the ewes are still very pregnant. This one just about to walk in from the left. Oh, she's stopped. Yes, you're going to see her now. Very, very, very pregnant. So imagine it will be any day now for her. So I think now that all the impala are moving, we are also going to move. See if we can try and get on the radio and see if anyone has located the Talamatis. They were here, apparently. But now that someone's gone to check on their last location, they've moved. So we'll try and see if we can join in the search. And if not, I may race to Djuma. And at least we've got our Olivia. Hopefully. there's more impala here, but I don't see any lambs. Hold on, Niels. I need to get my binos out. Is that a lamb? Yes, it is. Yes. You see that sort of group of females just towards the right side at the very back? There's a little lamb. See? Hello, little lamb. Finally, we did it, Niels. Oh, you see the young boys are going to see the lamb. Oh, it's tiny. It doesn't want to be with the boys. Naughty boys. Leave that lamb alone. It just wants to be with Mom. Oh. The lambs mirror Mum's every move. It's incredible. All is purely visual through observations. Why are these boys being slightly naughty with this little one? They're young boys. Look at their horns. Oh. So this one must be quite a few days old now. I'm talking maybe 2 or 3, now that it's with the rest of the herd. Oh. Elizabeth, cute indeed. We've been seeing them a lot, just very unsuccessfully putting them on camera. Hello. And they do have a tough time, as you know. Tangana had one yesterday, Tlalamba had one, Klangula had one. It's very easy pickings for the predators, I'm afraid. Very easy pickings. But look how well developed they are. This one won't be a week old, no way. Look how well developed it is. They have to be, otherwise they wouldn't survive. Well, this is so lovely. This has made my rather frustrating drive complete. And that's how they learn through association. Mum reacts to something, you react to something, and slowly but surely you put all the pieces in this jigsaw puzzle that is your environment out here together. Mum reacts to a smell of a leopard, you react, and then slowly but surely you learn a leopard is a threat. Hilary, Mum is very protective as she can be. Impalas are wonderful mothers. But panic ensues when there's a predator. So if they run, Mum can only hope that the lamb is running behind. An impala can't fight off a predator, but they are very protective mothers. They're wonderful mothers, but unfortunately they really don't stand a chance against predators like lions or leopards, even hyenas and even wild dogs. Oh, what a wonderful sighting. I'm going to try and get on this radio, see if they know where the Talamatis are, and if not, I'm going to head back to Duma.
Flies off. So if you have a look, welcome back to And Beyond Ngala. We have a fantastic herd of buffalo here. You can actually see the dust starting to kick up in the distance into the sunset, that beautiful golden light. And we've all just had a mud wallow. And quite comically, we've had quite a few buffalo moving up onto a prominent termite mound to get a bit of a height advantage and eat some of that nice nutritious grass. But I just love the sounds that the buffalo herd makes as they move through. This female has very shiny horns. So especially in that light, you can see the dust coming up from within the trees. And this is my favorite time of day to be with a herd of buffalo, especially to appreciate the sounds around them. So that's a very muddy looking female. So at the moment, these buffalo are actually going to be looking for somewhere to settle down for the night so they can chew the cud in a nice open area. And I think that's probably where they'll head to. But for the time being, I love just being able to appreciate that dust swirling and the sounds around us. So this golden light is absolutely stunning, and especially seeing them move off into the thickets like this with that light coming through behind. Look how beautiful the sunset is already, and to be able to spend it with one of the big five in such a stunning environment is just, I can't even describe the feeling. This is absolutely my favorite time of day. A buffalo can absolutely tear its ear, so we actually see quite a few buffalo with torn ears. As they're walking through, especially thickets like this, there might be spike thorn trees and other sharp branches and thorns, and as they're walking it might actually rip through. It is actually also possible to rip them while fighting with each other. Maybe their horns might hook each other and rip the ears. We actually saw a giraffe earlier today with a completely split ear. It was split completely in half. But it is one of my favorite things to look at on a buffalo, is that tasseled, torn look at the bottom of those big ears. She's got a leaf on her nose. There you can see it's got a few tassels at the bottom. So we're going to enjoy these buffaloes in this magnificent sunset.
We've managed to get such lovely views of this lamb. Heart-melting. I know many people say impalas are the most underrated animal in the bush. I think they're pretty well rated, but they are one of a kind, that's for sure, literally and metaphorically. They are the only member of their genus. So it's in the Bovidae family, along with your buffalo and all the bovids to name, but they're in their own genus, Epiceros. So they really are one of a kind, very special. You see that one at the very front, that really swollen ewe, very pregnant. Sometimes you can see the babies kick in the side when they're really, really ready to give birth. Susan, I would imagine it's just like any other organism that produces an even amount of male and females. I have no idea. I imagine over the entire population. Oh, are these boys having a little scuffle? I imagine it'll be more even in the end. The young boys are very interested in the lamb. It must be the scent. I've mentioned this before, but normally around this time, sort of the lambing season, the females are giving off hormones, not intentionally, just sort of pregnancy hormones, post-birth hormones, and it confuses the males a little bit sometimes. And these are very young boys, but the older rams, they start to fight. And you'll see them headbutting a lot. They get a little bit confused. They start to think, is this rutting season already? I'm pretty sure we just did all that. But it's temporary, it's very temporary. It's just the hormones that they sort of smell, or they taste, if you like, from the females, just confuses them. I didn't catch that name, but you're asking when do they eat grass fully? Well, normally calves are weaned anywhere between 4 to 7 months. So after birth, 4 to 7 months. But I think they can start nibbling on grass a little bit before that. They're obviously ruminants, and they have that specialised stomach with lots of different chambers. But they're weaned anywhere between 4 to 7 months. So they do rely quite heavily on mum. But I think they can start nibbling on grass before that. I mean, a female, anywhere over a year to a year and a half, she's mature enough to have her own offspring. So therefore, she's sexually mature. She's ready to reproduce it at just a year old or a little over that. Stuck in bed, I've never seen a birth. Last year, we did witness something very sad. We think it was probably a miscarriage or something going very, very wrong. But a birth I've not witnessed. They do tend to separate from the herd, go off into the thicket, and that's where they'll give birth. I think if it was possibly winter, the winter landscape, we may see a lot more births, but the fact that it's summer, it's so thick, so lush, it is sometimes very, very hard to see through the vegetation. You'll need to repeat that again, Elton. not catching that name, but you're seeing the impalas look squeaky clean. Yes, they're meticulous groomers, very meticulous groomers, and of course they don't feed on meat. They don't put their head in carcasses or anything like that. They don't get flesh on them, but they really, really are meticulous groomers, and they allo groom, so it's a sort of reciprocal manner between them. They'll groom each other. And normally those hard to reach places, like the back of your neck or your head, that's where they'll assist one another. And both will do it for each other, normally for the same amount of time. So you've scratched my back for 15 minutes, I'm going to scratch yours. And because they have such a high tick load, they have a lot of ticks in impalas. That's why they have to be such good groomers. And they spend a lot of time doing it. That's why they look like they have shiny coats. They've got modified teeth as well, so their lower incisor is actually slightly loose in the socket. You know, when you're a small child and your baby teeth start to wobble, that's what it's like for an impala. So slightly loose in the socket, and it splays open like a comb when they want to groom their own hair. And of course the teeth pass through the hair, so they have like comb teeth, if you like, and they can pull out their own parasites. So the sun is starting to set here, and this has been such a lovely sighting.
So we're gonna sit here and enjoy this absolutely beautiful sunset with this golden orange light, my favorite time of the day. Let's take this time to appreciate the sunset and all the beautiful sounds around us. What a spectacular evening for us to be in the best place in the world.
Right, well, here we are with the same two birds you saw a little bit earlier. With
East. So we are heading off into the evening to see if we can find any signs of the young Makoti male leopard. So we're heading back along the river, going east, past where we had the herd of buffaloes earlier. And so what we're looking for is maybe birds or even impalas that are staring in one direction consistently, or even listening for alarm calling. And obviously we're also looking for that beautiful white tip of a leopard's tail and those golden and black rosettes. So this is absolutely my favorite time of the day. It really helps you appreciate how stunning it can be out here in the bush. Especially knowing that, you know, we're driving around looking for a leopard. It's just mind-blowing. So I hope we get to find a leopard for you tonight. But this is the perfect area, some nice tall trees. It's really starting to cool off now as well. So hopefully that means that the predators might get a bit more active. We had a glimpse of a hyena earlier, so it could even be that maybe the hyena is looking for a leopard, looking for some scraps to steal. But it's just such a peaceful time of day. So this particular territory was actually Tambweti Tom's territory. And we haven't seen him in a few months, so we think that Makoti male, which is his son, has started taking over that territory. He might still get kicked out by an older male. But for now, this is the area we actually see him most. And so every time we drive through here, especially this little dip we're about to go into, I get very excited. Because we always used to see him and his brother in this drainage line as cubs. So hopefully we get to find a leopard this evening. We're going to keep going along the river in search.
Right, let's try that again. I'll say it quickly. This bird was hacking the end of the branch off. I think it was looking for something to eat inside the branch. It is the same bird you saw earlier with Lauren, and its partner is in the tree slightly closer by. I hope you got all that. In case we cut away again suddenly. That is a remarkable yoga pose. I'm sure I've had to do that before. I forget what it's called. Table. Planky table thing. I don't remember. Most impressive. Didn't know they were fans of Ashtanga yoga. I thought they were just fans of eating a great deal of meat. And now having a little bath. Making sure the tail feather is spruced for this evening's visit to the bar. It is, after all, Puza Thursday. I wonder what bar they frequent. I'm assuming, given that there aren't so many ground hornbills about, that they probably frequent a bar with other bird species as well. Maybe sort of a carnivorous birds bar. With only big carnivorous birds, because they'd all eat each other if there were smaller carnivorous birds. So perhaps it and the vultures and one or two large eagles go to a dive somewhere close by and quaff on Bloody Marys while eyeing each other. I don't think it's the kind of bar you'd want to go to. I think the sort of bar that the Testiculars, waxbills, and maybe even the brown-headed parrots frequent is probably a lot more festive. It is astounding the drivel you can come up with while you're sitting out here. Maybe it was the sun. Oh, we might be able to see it fly now. Here comes Lauren. She's coming past for a second.
So unfortunately we're on a not so attractive boundary line. This is Gowrie Main, lots of traffic, lots of... Sorry about that. I don't know what happened there, but you're back with us and we're just racing along. I'm trying to look at my clock. Oh, I'm not sure it's possible to see if we can possibly get to Olivia. Why? Because this is the time of night when Mom would technically be waking up and getting ready to leave the nest. I don't know if I can make this on time, but if I put my foot down, maybe I can. I really want to see this chick. Let's try. I've tried all day and not had much success, so let's try the little chick and see if we can do it. Mom might not leave the nest, but if we saw this chick on the 1st, and today's date is... What's today's date, Niels? 12, thank you. I know Niels would know the date. That's at least 12 days old. Now, maybe it's older, maybe it's not. The jury's still out on that one, but that chick is at least 12 days old. Now, normally Mom starts to leave the nest a lot more often at 10 days. So one day I'm going to get it. I'm going to get this chick on its own and we can really have a good look at it. So I think it's time for me to put my foot down and see if we can do this. A race against time. Possibly not. If I'm not able to do it, I do apologise. I'm sure you can all guess I will visit tomorrow. It's just really important for me to track the development of this chick. Joshua. Here in Juma, Marcel, Davi and I came to this exact dam, twin dams, to shoot the stars. Obviously not shoot the stars, but do some stargazing, and I was learning how to do star photography. And we heard a rustle in the bush and we thought, what was that? Could be a number of things. It sounded quite large. And as we shone our torch, there was a huge porcupine, huge I ever expected them to be. And that's the one and only time I've seen a porcupine. The only time I've
Welcome back to Tswalu Kalahari. It looks like there's a bit of a storm brewing there in the background. Look at that. Just came very, very quick. Look at the clouds from bright blue skies to just overcast. Just like that. We can actually smell the rain as it comes with the wind. Wind just picking up and making everything dark in the background there.
You're back with us again. How fabulous, because we're almost there. We're almost at Sebwick's house. Driving in the Mawati is not too unlike driving in snow for any of you who live in cold countries. Driving in snow is a lot scarier, but we're almost there. We're almost there. I wonder if Mama will be there. So just up ahead is for the house. This overhanging vegetation here that you can see is where Sebwick spent most of his time. So I think once this chick grows up and needs to move and needs to get away from the desk, it's going to come to this embankment here. We're just here, Elton. We're literally at the nest. Can we just have the quickest look? Have we made it? We did it, everybody. Hello, Olivia. You are just a bundle of down. Wow. She must be sleeping. She's not even standing upright, so it's not entirely the views that I was hoping for. I think we've got a bit of a bum shot here. Oh, Niels has just spotted Mum or Dad. Now he's going to swing the camera around. It's not going to be the best view because they're at the back of the car. Well done, Niels. But he's going to show you. Mama or Papa is up here. So excuse our aerial. Aha. I wonder who it is. It could be Mum, just stretching her wings, getting mobile. As I mentioned, it's a perfect time of night, or it could be Dad. I knew this was the perfect time to see the chick alone, but sadly it just looks like a grey egg. A fluffy grey egg. It's not ideal. They do say that when they do have the ability to stand, they will still sleep very, very flat. Hello. Hello, my dear. We can see you. Can you stand up for us? It'd be very remarkable if you could. Then we can start to gauge your age, dear. Not entirely sure this little fluff ball is going to cooperate. But if Niels can just zoom out, you're going to see the scenario. So this little chick is definitely on the ground. Spotted eagle owls have ground nest, just quite high up on the embankment of the Mowati. But other than that sort of height and the camouflage, there's nothing protecting this little chick. You see that? She just really, really blends in. This is exactly how we found Sebwig last year. We were just driving, and Seb himself, without the wig, said, "What is that?" And we just looked, and it was a bundle of grey fluff, just like this. Ah, how lovely. It's not been so bad after all. I got 2 of my wishes, an impala lamb and Olivia on her own.
I wish I could see that little owl as well, Lauren. We've actually just switched on our infrared lights here at and beyond Ngala. And we came up to this clearing and we found the most beautiful array of plains game. We've got some zebras, we've got some wildebeest, even some vultures up in the tree, but also impalas. And they're all soaking in this nice cool breeze and eating their fill before they settle down here in this clearing for the night. And we've actually noticed that in amongst this mix of animals is a young zebra foal. She's currently hiding behind the mum, but we're really hoping that it comes out again. But have a look at those vultures right at the top of that tree. The one on the left actually almost looks like a nest. These are 2 white-backed vultures that are also settling down here for the night. There's always something incredible about watching a zebra. And there you can see the little foal to the left, actually. Just a little piece of it sticking out. You can see it's actually quite a bit fluffier than the mum. Doing a great job of hiding. So over there you can see some of the impalas. And it actually seems to be a bachelor herd of impalas. So these are majority males. And you can tell that by looking at their horns. So this is a really, really wonderful day and a wonderful way to end it as well. To see such an amazing array of animals. There's a little foal walking away. So a scene like this is absolutely incredible to come upon. We know that these animals are often together, especially this time of the day, because they want to stay together for safety in numbers, so that there's more eyes and ears and noses to detect predators, but also because they can actually assist each other, they can help each other with feeding. But I think what we're going to do is we're going to soak up the last few rays of light here with all of these different species.
Unfortunately, we haven't been able to get you sort of any better views, but still. She's moving her head. I'm still convinced that Olivia's very young and really not at the 2-week mark yet, but I could be wrong. I'm completely open to the fact that I'm wrong. I'm just researching day by day by day, following any sort of development literature or information that I can, and I still think she's under the 2-week mark. I know a few of you have said you saw movement under Mum's wings, so we don't actually know when she hatched, but I believe that she's pretty much on the 12-day mark, if not 13. But I really don't think she's over the 2-week mark. But it's going to be such a joy to follow this chick, and it's also fascinating to know that Mum has moved. So Mum roosts next to her on the ground during the day, but then clearly it's time for Mum to go hunt now. She needs to help the male. She also needs to move, stretch her own wings if you like. She's got to stretch, move, hunt, probably come back, go off again, come back again, and then that's her just flown off. Off she goes. And of course then she needs to look after the little chick at the end of the day. Monitor lizards, snakes, all sorts of... She'll put her head up. Oh, we've got a little bit of movement. Still extremely weak, I think, though. Good night, Olivia. Unfortunately, it's that time. We must say goodbye. But thank you, everyone, for jumping on board. It's been a pleasure, as always. And we shall see you tomorrow. Good night.